Number 1. This happened about 10 years ago when I worked third shift at a gas station in a small town in South Carolina. It's always come up in conversation when anyone mentions intuition, and I think it's proof that you should never, ever ignore strange feelings. So I had been working at this gas station for a few months, had gotten to know all the cops, and made a bunch of friends. Throughout most of the week, I had a regular crew who would come in and hang out with me. One dude who got off work at around 11 p.m. and would come in and hang for a couple hours. Another dude, Travis, who owned a strip club, would get in about midnight and hang for a couple hours. Then there was Danny. He would pull in after hauling loads between Atlanta and my city and get in around 2:30 a.m. He'd hang with me till about 5, and that's when people would start arriving to fill up before work. So I was never really alone for too long. It helps to mention that all 3 of these dudes carried guns on their person, and I was a pretty young girl, and they took it upon themselves to make sure I wasn't alone. Plus, they were funny, told great stories, and never tried anything on me. They were pals. But Sundays were always a problem. None of them worked on Sunday nights, and on those occasions when I had to work Sundays, I was always a bit lonesome, but not scared. I had by that time read Gavin de Becker's The Gift of Fear, and it had changed my life. I stopped worrying about stuff, certain that my intuition would be clouded if I allowed myself to be paranoid or a worrywart. So when I felt weird, I listened. So there was this one evening when I had to work, and even hours before, I just had that feeling. I had never had it before a shift, not ever, and I had worked at a few gas stations previous to this. Side note, gas stations are amazing places to work. You will see everything there if you work there long enough. Also dangerous. So I had this feeling, and I just knew I had better heed it. I called up a friend and asked him if he could roll up in the empty hours at the station and keep me company. I promised him all the free coffee and hot dogs he could eat, and he happily said yes. Well, we're sitting there. I had gotten all my work done, and we were just chilling inside. It was a cold night. Suddenly, I see this beat-up pickup truck pull in, and I just got this wave of feeling. This is what I was waiting for. I knew it as clearly as I know my own name. They pulled in and proceeded to drive real slow around the station. There were 2 dudes inside, craning their necks to see. I mean, it was so obvious. They were casing the joint, and I said to my friend, "Hey man, stand up. This is who I was waiting for." He gets up and stands by the door in full badass stance, and I hit the auto locks. Pumps are off too. They do a full circuit, and I can see from the back cab window that they are grimy and desperate looking. And they pull back out onto the road, going in the same direction they had been going initially, refuting any idea I might have had that they were merely turning around. I kept the doors locked till morning and told my boss about it the next day. She wrote up a description, and we kept it behind the counter. And not 3 days later, the store down the street was robbed. There was something about those dudes that I am sure, since the other store's clerk was a male, that they would have done more to me than merely rob me. Truck was probably stolen, as there was no license plate on it, or I would have turned them in. As it was, I was sure to tell the cops the description of the truck and the dudes, but they said themselves the truck was probably stolen, and without a license plate, they were hard-pressed. I wish I had been able to get more info. because there was something about those guys together that told me that they had done far, far worse in their lives than rob a gas station. I mean, some things you just know. I can't explain it. I can and do hike all over alone. I have traveled cross country from Georgia to California. I was homeless in Los Angeles for months, alone. I am not your average chick when it comes to guts. And there have only been a few times in my life when that voice came up and just tells you, you just freaking know. One last, far shorter story. I used to have to walk a mile from the train station to my place, and I had to pass by a spot where a girl was snatched and her body found a week later off the 5. It was a drugstore. She was ill and had gone in to get some cold meds, and on her way out, someone snatched her. I will admit, walking past there, I would get occasionally freaked out. That crime was something of a legend in my hood, and since then there have been 3 more. Not cool at all. But one night, I was walking home from the station and the streets were empty, and I was about to cross over between these 2 buildings. It's a shortcut to get onto my street, which is one of the oldest in Los Angeles. But a very clear voice said, "No, stay on your side of the street. Cross at Broadway. Don't take the shortcut tonight." It was so clear that I said, "Man, okay," as if I was talking to my mom or something. So I didn't cross, did my normal thing, and happened to look back. In the alley where I was going to go through, there were these 3 dudes sitting there on the ground drinking, just hanging out in a non-residential area that is very, 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 as in a few feet away from an ATM. It was like they were just watching for a chance to snatch or do something. Dressed in black, young guys. You tell me, who does this? No apartments around. They weren't obviously homeless, just dudes. I was not meant to walk through there, apparently. Always remember to listen to that voice inside your head. Number 2. A little background first. This happened about 4 years ago. At the time, I was around 8 months pregnant and was doing some Christmas shopping at the local mall. It was around 9 at night. I finished up my shopping and headed out of the mall towards my truck. At this mall, there is a road that goes around the mall, and parking is on the other side of this road. Therefore, you have to cross the road to get to the parking area. As I am leaving the store, I happened to notice a man standing in the middle of the road. He looked in my direction and made eye contact. I looked away and kept going. At this same time, there are 2 men that walk past him to go into the mall. He never looks at them or says anything to them, but kept his eyes on me. I noticed that he started to walk in my direction, but I just kept on strolling to my vehicle. Then I hear,
"Excuse me, can you help me?"
Being Southern has its downfalls, and one of those is having it ingrained into you to be polite. I simply just asked, "What do you need?" He looked around and said,
"Could you help me start my car? I think my battery is dead."
I may be Southern, but I'm not that polite, nor am I stupid. Please remember that I am very much pregnant and a woman walking alone in a parking lot. If he was really having car trouble, is it likely that he would ask a pregnant woman for help rather than 2 men that had just walked past him? Doubtful. At this point, I know it's time to go. So I just say, "Sorry, I can't help," and keep on walking. A little faster this time. I still see him out of the corner of my eye following me. I have my keys out and am ready to go as soon as I make it to the truck. He's still coming.
"You really aren't going to help me? I just need a jump."
Again I say, "Nope, sorry." Finally, I get to the truck, unlock it, and jump in. He is practically running towards me now. I lock the doors and try to get the key in the ignition, but I was shaking, and at that moment the damn key just would not fit into the ignition. He gets to the truck and hits my window, saying,
I just need your help for a minute.
Now I am starting to get angry and yell, "No! Get the hell away from me!" He grabs the door handle and tries to open my door and screams,
Just open the door!
Here is where I lost my cool and made a split-second decision. I have my concealed carry license because there have been other reasons that I needed protection that I will not go into here. However, I did have a .38 special in my console, and I know how to use it. When he tried to open my door, my only thought was to protect my child and myself. I rolled the window down, grabbed the .38, and pointed it right at his face and said, "I'm not going to tell you again. Get away from me." He stood there for a moment, in shock, I am sure. In that moment, time stopped. I didn't know what he would do, but I knew that I was prepared to use this gun if he made any move toward me. He didn't. He didn't say a word. He turned and ran. I know I should have gotten the hell out of Dodge then, but I couldn't. All I could do was just sit there in shock. I was terrified of not only what he may have done to me had I not felt that something was wrong, but also that I just had to threaten to kill someone. Not a situation I ever want to be in again. However, should it happen, I still have that .38 and it is loaded and ready to go. Creepy Mina here of the Worst Nightmare channel. I hope you enjoyed those 2 stories of women using their street smarts and listening to their intuition. I'm sorry it has taken me so long to upload a new video. I have been embroiled in a big project in my neighborhood, and also yesterday I started to have technical difficulties with my iMovie software and my voiceover would not work. Very frustrating. I spent a couple of hours with Apple and then luckily, obviously, did get it resolved. If you have a true crime or paranormal story that you would like to see narrated here on this channel or on another horror channel, there are different things you can do to have that happen. You can post something to Let's Not Meet, the subreddit, and write at the very top, "This is open to anyone to use. I relinquish the copyright status." Or you can add a story to WillingStories, which is a subreddit where lack of copyright is understood. Or you can send email to me, creepymina@gmail.com. So please comment, rate, share, subscribe if you haven't already, and stay safe.